Welcome to the ROI Masterclass, the podcast where vision meets strategy and bold moves create measurable results. I'm Liat Siegel, interior designer and ROI strategist with 17 years of experience. I help businesses transform properties and ideas into high-performing assets. This show is specifically for real estate investors, hospitality operators, and boutique developers who aren't afraid to take risks, challenge the status quo, and demand a return on every decision they make. Each and every week, we talk with innovators and leaders across industries about the strategies and the insights and really all the unconventional thinking that turns potential into profit every single time. If you believe that smart design, decisive leadership, and strategic risk are the keys to real ROI, you're in the exact right place. Let's dive in. Billy Giordano is a seasoned entrepreneur with over 2 decades of experience building businesses across hospitality, staffing, tech, and real estate. From launching a self-frozen yogurt chain to founding Room 38, a destination restaurant and lounge, and now leading Staffed Up, a platform helping service industry employers streamline hiring. He's built a career around solving real-world problems with scalable solutions. What makes his perspective especially valuable for this show is how he blends customer experience, team culture, and smart systems to drive real ROI across multiple industries. Thank you so much for joining us, Billy. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your background, your journey in hospitality as a hospitality operator to now launching Staffed Up. What problem are you really trying to solve throughout?
Yeah, I've kind of been a serial entrepreneur my whole life. And in 2008, I opened my restaurant in Columbia, Missouri. Did that for the 17 years up until this most recent December. And in the meantime, I had a few other businesses that I just kind of did on the side because I continually wanted to find new opportunities for myself. And, I think every 3 to 5 years, I just get a little complacent. It's time to start something new. So, in all of the businesses that I ran, one thing was consistent, and it was really that team around me was either what made or broke me. And so company culture and creating some sort of a family dynamic within my system and my team was always super important. So in 2017, we launched Staffed Up, and that was a product of me having some real estate cash. I had flipped a few houses and was looking for my next business opportunity in kind of brainstorming concepts where in my current business, recruiting was just not streamlined. There was not an opportunity for me to source high quality talent efficiently and really manage it effectively. So my best friend and business partner at the time, and now business partner within Staffed Up, we've been brainstorming and tossing it around. We took it to a startup weekend just to call it kick the tires and see if it had traction, and ended up winning and got tossed into a tech industry we were not prepared for. But in doing so, we got to really, find a team that could help us execute our dream and our vision. And, we're now building version 3 of the software when it's actually really more like version 10. But from the public facing perspective, we're continually iterating and growing and finding new opportunities to streamline hiring to help our employers build the teams of their dreams effectively and easily without spending an arm and a leg to do it.
Team is literally everything. I love that you said it can literally make or break you. Even within the design and construction world, the architects, the designers, the contractors, the stakeholders, everybody needs to be on the same page. And when they're not, projects take so much longer. You can't be as profitable when you don't have these systems in place. What challenges within the restaurant industry, maybe you can give us some specifics, and that experience as a restaurateur, how did that shape the way that you run Staff Up today?
I think that kind of sets us apart in the space because there are plenty of, and Mike, we'll call ourselves an applicant tracking system. We're a recruiting tool. There are plenty of, HR systems out there that do similar things, but from a very, call it technical and analytical perspective, without really understanding the nuance and what an interpersonal customer service facing employee really needs to be for your business. And so I think that as call myself an HR professional now who was my target demographic and understands exactly what these employers need to hire, it gives me the true perspective on not only what we need to prioritize in hiring in terms of how we relate to the applicant, how we highlight the key characteristics that make them a successful hire and a successful employee, but actually like dive into the nuance of the UX and the design and the functionality so that it's easy to learn, easy to use. It's enjoyable in a sense. Obviously, HR tech is not the sexiest concept in the world, but when you build tools that are intuitive and functional and actually achieve the goal that you're promising, that's where we've seen our success. We've really set ourselves apart.
How does what you do and having a good team also impact the ROI and the guest experience within a restaurant or hospitality brand?
I guess the ROI in a restaurant hospitality brand is going to be, it can only be as quality as your efficiencies are in all aspects. So, when I was running my restaurant, we were always looking at percentages for food costs, for labor, for, overhead in general. So if you can create efficient hiring to build a staff that runs the way that you want to, it gives you an opportunity to really dial into the bits and pieces that make a successful business. So down to, how long it takes for a customer to get sat at a table and how long it takes to get the first, level of service, to the timing of when the plates are getting to the table, and just full start to finish systems, I think, are super important in all operations, especially in hospitality.
Do you see also, through your experience having your own restaurant and being in the hospitality world for as long as you have, do you see that aesthetics, or also not in addition, also how design functions as well for a restaurant, right? Because there's functional aspect and also the aesthetic aspect. Do you see that drives return on investment and a restaurant's ability to be higher end, charge more, and have better guest reviews?
Absolutely. It was always a priority for us. And I think that it's almost like that the first experience, the first perception of your establishment, whether it's the way it smells when you walk in, the smiles on the faces, the overall design and flow, I think is massively important to helping a customer feel comfortable and understand like who you are and establish an identity. We probably went through 4 or 5 and 17 years facelifts just to stay up with trends and making sure that we were putting our best foot forward. And that when you walked into our establishment, you got excited about it, right? And you had a really good first initial introduction to who we are and what the experience was going to be as you sat with us longer, and we wanted to inspire you to come back.
What specific aspects do you think made the biggest impact?
For me, it was always like lighting, sound, and just like a balance. I don't know. I've always been very analytical in the sense that everything needs to be balanced and organized around me. So like true balance in the room. And it could be as simple as like the height of certain plants in a certain space and the hierarchy of what you see as you kind of like look around the room, and making sure that everything just feels natural and comfortable. But I'd say lighting and sound was always like my big things that I harped on the most. If I walked into my restaurant, my lighting was too high and my music was too low, I mean, my staff instantly felt the energy in the room shift, like, oh no, we were not on top of it. Like I walk into establishments all the time and I can just tell if they've got a good front of house manager based on those 2 characteristics.
Yeah, my husband and I went on a date this week, and we went into a restaurant, a very fancy restaurant. And when we came in, we started noticing all the little things that weren't done correctly, or acoustics that weren't in place. And so I guess, with a trained eye, you really are able to, you don't see the world in the same way ever again.
Absolutely. I mean, I can definitely enjoy myself when I'm out, but at the same time, I'm wildly impressed by the people who are great at it. And it's like, I get excited about that. It makes me want to come back. It sets my expectations even higher for like the food and beverage and what to expect there. And then in the same right, if I walk into a place that has incredible food and beverage, but the atmosphere is lacking, it's almost like it kind of dumbs down the overall experience collectively.
Absolutely. Do you think that impacts also the staff if the environment is perhaps even, especially functionally, not set up and optimized for them?
Absolutely. So little things like organization and like the service area and the flow, and like, if you've ever been behind a bar, you can get behind a really well set up bar and know that this team knows what they're doing. Or you can get behind a bar where no one cares, there's no organization, there's no management, and it's an absolute mess. And if you put both scenarios with the exact same team. The team with the better prepared, more well-organized and laid out systems are going to perform better. They're going to make more money. They're going to like where they're at. Their just energy is going to be higher.
So in terms of churn, what can other restaurateurs and hospitality brands put into place so that they reduce that churn, aside for and perhaps in addition to the design and functionality and organization? What can they do in order to really make sure that they have the best team and the least amount of churn possible?
Yeah, so it's something that we really prioritize within our systems, and creating opportunities for employers to look at their highest performers and their favorite. I always had my favorites. It's hard not to, right? But, favorites could be personality, right? It could be because of who they are and how they engage. It could be their work ethic. It could be the level of OCD and just keeping things clean around you, which we all appreciate. So for us, what we've always tried to do is in the restaurant space and with Staffed Up. So we'll start with the restaurant space. It's like your leader, your manager, whoever's setting the tone, it's really going to trickle top down. So if you've got poor management or you've got a great team under poor management, that great team is also being, a lot of their ability or the potential is being sacrificed because someone in the room is more or less sucking the air out of the room and the energy is not being set, the tone's not being set. So starting with quality management that creates a culture and can actually build a team around them is super important. So if you're an owner, but you have a manager doing that really needs to be the person that is the extension of you, or can be the person that, I guess, fills your gaps, right? If you're not a person that can, I guess, create relationships easily, then you got to find the person to do that, set the tone and build a true culture around it. And then from the hiring perspective, it's you ask the right questions, you set up systems that attract, or call it marketing and content that attract people that are like-minded to your best employees in all roles. So we always try to either encourage those employees to find their friends and people like them, or we basically took whatever characteristics that we prioritized or recognized in them and asked those questions, not only in the application, but in the interview, and tried to find people that would fit the energy, would fit the mold, and kind of fit the team. So qualifications aside, it really does have to be like a baseline personality commonality within your team so that there's opportunities for people to go to war together and trust each other and, be excited to work as a team.
I like that, go to war together. Because I'm sure within the restaurant world, it oftentimes feels like that. My husband worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years, so I know that it can be quite intense.
Yeah, on your busiest shifts, when you're absolutely at the peak levels of stress, who do you want around you? And even in my team meetings, I would look at my schedule and I would ask my team, listen, we always do our best to put the best team together for you. But if you've got people who are not pulling their weight, are leaving more for you, who are making life harder, if you look at the schedule and you see a name that you're not excited to be on the floor with, we need to know about that so we can either train and bring them up or remove and replace. And that's really just like, for us, it was, you call it aces and places, but I want, my average to be aces. I don't want C players on the team because it really does affect the energy in the room. And if I've got my best server or my best bartender frustrated by someone who doesn't pull their weight, the energy is reflected in the overall team and service, and the customer feels it. So
everybody gets deflated, right? And
absolutely.
I like that the average comes up, not goes down, and that you're also training people rather than saying, okay, bye. Good luck.
It's important to give people opportunities because we hire them for a reason. We saw something in them, we see potential, and maybe they're just not there, and that's okay. But we have to recognize and acknowledge it, and then give them the opportunity to become or to meet our expectations. And some people are just not ever going to be the right fit, and that's okay. But if we are hiring based on where we see the most success and those characteristics of a person or a hire, then we're more likely to get it right than we are wrong.
Yeah. Like they say in the dating world that you have to become the person, that you ultimately want to be with, right? You got to up-level yourself. You need to grow. You need to skill up. What are some of the key things that an owner or GM could do in order to skill up and to become that leader and to become that person that attracts the best people within their staff and their team?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always, you never want to be the smartest people or smartest person in the room. And then when you say room, it's kind of hypothetical. Like, you don't want to be the smartest person, So trying to find individuals, call it mentors, that have gone before you, have achieved success, or maybe just, inspiring you and keeping your eye out and just being open to learning and education. Every industry, no matter what it is always evolving. And even behind the bar, that's how I started. I was a bartender. I fell in love with it. And then I decided to open my own business. For, call it 10 years that I was bartending, I was consistently getting better, consistently improving and learning, and going to new establishments and being inspired by things that people were doing that maybe I hadn't even thought of. So, as I got away from that, I realized I needed to find people who were smarter than me to implement the change and implement the progress within my restaurant. And that's really, for me, it was always like, who's better at this than me? And then how do I learn how to get to that level?
Camaraderie over competition. Right. Jealousy has no place in terms of growth.
Yeah. Even in the town we were in, competition for us, it's always competition, but it was really more of a community, and we supported each other and tried not to step on toes, but still also tried to bring each other up. If you're doing something better than we are, well, we got to step up our game. And it was never seen as, stealing ideas per se.
I love that. That's fabulous. And when hiring potential candidate, are there certain signals that you can just tell that somebody is really good, or maybe they're the opposite? Maybe they're not going to be a good fit at all.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how you set up your recruiting. For us, and what we encourage with Staffed Up is to ask the right questions to filter out the candidates that don't meet that minimum criteria. And then in the interview, really ask the questions that will translate into whatever that role is going to be. So it doesn't have to be in food and beverage, it can be in anything. But for a customer service facing role, for me, it was there a smile when we were engaging? Was there eye contact? Was the energy good? Did we have to think about our answers and almost make up an answer, or were we just conversationally comfortable and rolling with the punches? And in the interview, was it more conversational? And did they make me comfortable instantly, or did we have to break down a wall? Because in service, you only have a few seconds to really establish rapport. And if they can do that with me, then I know then they at least that's the foundation for a good employee. And then I'm looking at their history and their ability and whether or not they're trainable, things like that. Yeah. I think in customer service, the ability to establish rapport quickly is number one for me.
You went from being a restaurant owner to being thrown into tech. What has that been like for you? And what was the most shocking aspect to all of that?
We could be here all day. I wasn't ready. I didn't know. I had to get around people who were smarter than me to learn from and to make my mistakes, and spend way too much money on people who made empty promises, and basically listen to, call them programmers and developers, anybody in the tech world that would tell me one thing, charge me for that exact thing, but only deliver a third of it. It was an uphill battle, and it still is learning every day, right? If you look at the bell curve and just technology evolution, as soon as as soon as 2000 and the internet hit, it just went straight up, and now it's going faster and faster. Learning, but also staying on the cutting edge of what's happening to continually evolve what we do and stay competitive and serve our customers to the best of our ability is definitely a priority. But the tech space is super hard. I thought that, this was a smarter, not harder concept. Brick and mortar is every day on the grind. And I'm like, all right, I can work from anywhere, so it's going to be easy. It's a hard business, but I love what I do, and we're helping a lot of people, and our customers love the product we're building. So, for me, it's definitely worth it. But the hardest part is that I'm always learning. I never know enough.
It's hard, but also invigorating too, because when you look back a year or two ago, where you were then and where you are now, you're growing leaps and bounds. I know that I am, even though I'm kicking and screaming along the way.
Absolutely. I think that from all the hard lessons learned, it's created a foundation for, I guess you got to say hard lessons learned, it's knowledge, right? So we learned our lessons the hard way, and now every step we make moving going forward is intentional. We make a lot more intentional moves than just kind of taking shots in the dark.
There's always failures and always struggles. But the question is, like you said before, always finding somebody who's smarter and who's been there, done that, and they're further ahead, and we can learn from them. And it's not about, if we're going to make a mistake, it's just about maybe mitigating.
The mistakes at this stage are getting smaller and smaller, less impactful. We can forecast it better. Yeah. And, there's very few overnight successes. Everybody, sees the big win, but they don't see all the work it took to get there. So we're proud of how hard we've worked, because most people would have probably given up.
And I mean, that is the energy and the example that I think employers and their team, need to see and have. It's wonderful that you have that mindset and that you're open about the journey too, because that not only that's you creating culture for the people that you bring on, and them, building culture in their companies too. I think, like you said, like attracts like, and
Absolutely.
There's so many tech stacks out there. There's so many options, but to be the business and make the impact that you ultimately envision is priceless. To live from that, from that perspective, I think is so admirable.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that kind of helped us is we came from the ground up starting a brick and mortar, restaurant, bar, and lounge. And at that point, we were not really heavily funded. So we did most of the work ourselves, built it with their bare hands, got open as quick as possible to start making revenue. And at that point, it's, no one's above anything. And as an owner, I was doing all the maintenance and scrubbing toilets if I had to. I would get in hours early to do all of the work that was necessary for us to put our best foot forward without having to pay somebody to do it, because we were kind of just pinching pennies and scraping by, and we wanted to pay the business off. And so that level of young grind does translate into what we're doing and how we started this company. The founders still to this day will hop on a help desk call if we're available and somebody's not, and we're just not above anything. And we're fully involved as we scale to make sure we understand every piece of the business and that it's being managed the way that we expect it to until we can fully hand it off.
What is the number one thing you can leave our audience with that they should take away from everything that you've shared today and from everything that you're building with Staff Up?
Obviously, learning lessons and making sure you're tracking your wins and your losses, what's working, kind of like an A/B test in design. Does it look good here? Does it look better there? What feels right? It's creating systems that will make you more efficient every day. So if you learned something here, maybe it was in payroll or in a bad review or whatever it is, you take that, you implement the fix, but you implement it structurally, right? It's not just, I acknowledge it. I actually fix the root issue. And if you track that and you put it in documentation, then you start building this SOP that basically helps you run your business and helps you train the people to be more efficient moving forward. So our system and staffing is basically a built-in hiring SOP, and it will give you all the tools you need to hire the right way without making all these mistakes that you would probably still be making without us. So that's the long story short.
Systems are number one. I think even also people get it wrong in terms of design, that design is aesthetics, it's a luxury, but it's not. It's literally an SOP as well. Just like having a PIP is so necessary, and making sure that you're doing the constant upgrades, but knowing how a space is laid out, that's an SOP, how it needs to function in order so that your staff can function efficiently is the basic, system for the physical system for your operations.
100%. And again, functionality is important, but aesthetic, I think, especially in this day and age, is key. It's what everybody's looking at. You can have the same exact two service and food and general operation. But if one looks better than the other, then the perceived value is going to be higher over here, and that business is going to do better business. It's all important.
Exactly. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. Where can our audience find you?
So staffedup.com is super simple. Billy at staffedup.com if you want to reach out direct. I'd say those are the two avenues to find me.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.